6 million Malaysians have registered for COVID-19 vaccines, or around half the targeted 24 million needed to achieve herd immunity. Registrations are notably low in states such as Sabah and Kelantan, where just 19% and 36% of eligible recipients have registered respectively. Only Putrajaya has reached 100% registrations in the entire country. It is still too soon to say private hospitals in Malaysia will begin procuring their own COVID-19 vaccines or run a parallel vaccination program. That was the response by Association of Private Hospitals President Dato' Dr. Kuljit Singh to the government's green light for states and private hospitals to buy COVID-19 vaccines. In the meantime, Kuljit says private hospitals across the country will step up and assist the government to inoculate as many Malaysians as possible through the NIP.
And the idea now is the moment we have enough vaccines, now we need to give the public an opportunity to get the vaccine quickly. And I think that is what private hospitals are already doing. This week and next week, they are starting with few hospitals. And by the end of the month, I think we're going to have a lot more private hospitals helping to vaccinate. That doesn't mean that you come to the private hospital of your choice and pick your vaccine of your choice. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to register on MySejahtera, and MySejahtera will then indicate which place you go for your vaccine. It could be a private hospital, could be a public hospital, or could be a public center, like what you see in some of the halls that the government has prepared.
He reassured the public that as the country receives more COVID-19 vaccines through the NIP in the coming weeks, all vaccination appointments, be it at private hospitals or not, will be given free of charge. Malaysian health authorities have granted conditional approval for AstraZeneca vaccines manufactured in Thailand. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said the vaccine supply from Siam Bioscience is expected to speed up the country's vaccination drive. AstraZeneca was brought back into the national immunization program last week following high demand for the vaccine when used during a parallel opt-in program. Malaysia has purchased 12.8 million doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine, half through the COVAX facility and the remainder directly from the drug maker. The first shipment of 610,000 doses from Thailand is scheduled for this month, followed by 410,000 doses in July and 1.2 million doses between August and September. We also spoke with Chairman of Selangor Task Force for COVID-19, Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad, about the emerging variants of concern in the country. The former health minister said we need to stop fighting in the dark and be proactive in identifying new strains through stepping up genome sequencing.
Because we are seeing this rise in a phenomenal way, as opposed to the usual variant, you can only allude to the fact that that the variants are around and rampant, but you can only say with any degree of certainty when you have done enough of genomic sequencing on all the samples, positive sample, and you must do it without any excuses. You got to be doing it and ramping up this genomic sequencing as well as to really know, because they must be, you must not be just fighting in the dark, be shooting in the dark or bossing in the dark. You got to have that certainty of evidence whether that vaccine particularly, would be amenable, you can fight that variants, and these variants are more transmissible and they are more pathogenic, they are more virulent. And by way of what we are seeing now, the pathology and the mortality and morbidity, yes, the variants are here to stay.
The way to outsmart the virus, he said, was for the government to ramp up efforts and conduct genomic sequencing as well as mass testing.
The only way that you get to know is to immediately pin them down and you know exactly which patient you are dealing with which variant. So there must be quick turnaround time to do the genomic sequencing, and that's not easy, of course. Yeah, so it may take time, but the fact remains that you have to spend resources doing that genomic sequencing, and our IMR, our labs are quite capable of doing it. But the point is that you got to do it and do it speed and volume. No compromise on that. That's the only way that you get to outpace the virus and outsmart the virus, Suraya. I've always been stating that. So yes, you got to do mass testing, but as well, you got to do the genomic sequencing.
Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of Law and Parliament, Datuk Sri Taqiyuddin Hassan, said that the government is researching ways to run Parliament session via hybrid mode. This is vital as the Parliament sessions were suspended since the emergency proclamation was declared in January. According to him, a meeting was held today virtually between him with both the speakers of Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Negara as well as their deputies to discuss matters relating to preparations towards the implementation of a hybrid parliament that covers aspects of infrastructure, technical, legal, regulatory and financial. He added that in the meeting, it was also decided that a more detailed study will be made immediately to provide a complete paper that will be produced in the near future for the consideration and approval of the Cabinet. Taqiyuddin's statement comes after Home Minister Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin today suggested that the reopening of Parliament through online sittings would come with its own set of problems and that not reopening it for physical meetings could help prevent a cluster of COVID-19 cases from happening. We'll take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A fresh COVID-19 outbreak is growing near Myanmar's northwestern border with India. The country recorded 122 new COVID-19 cases late Thursday, the sharpest spike in cases since the military seized control in February. Many of the cases are from Chin state bordering India, raising concerns of the more transmissible variant. The country faces a collapse in health services and testing programs as many healthcare workers joined a civil disobedience movement to protest against the military coup that ousted elected ruler Aung San Suu Kyi. Medics are concerned that only few cases are actually being detected. Over 1,400 COVID-19 tests are conducted a day just a week ago, compared to over 17,000 tests in the week before the junta crackdown. Taiwan received over 1 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from Japan today, in a gesture that will more than double the amount of shots Taiwan has received to date. The island nation is battling a spike in COVID-19 infections and has vaccinated only about 3% of its population. The shipment of 1.24 million doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine donated by the Japanese government arrived at Taoyuan International Airport today, a sign of appreciation for the island's help following a devastating earthquake and tsunami that hit Fukushima in 2011. Meanwhile, the US plans to donate at least 80 million vaccine doses globally by the end of June. Around 19 million for first consignment of 25 million doses will be distributed through the COVAX facility, whereby some 6 million doses would go to Latin America and the Caribbean, about 5 million to Africa, and roughly 7 million doses to South and Southeast Asia, including Malaysia. Do you think Putin is testing you? The number of babies born in Japan fell to a record low last year. Its health ministry said more couples are putting off marriage and starting a family amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of births fell to over 840,000 in 2020, down 2.8% from a year earlier and the lowest since 1899. The COVID-19 outbreak has hit birth rates around the world despite early speculation that pandemic-related lockdowns may lead to a global baby boom. The number of registered marriages in Japan also fell 12.3% last year. Indonesia has formed a task force to go after nearly $8 billion of unrepaid state funds handed out to bank owners during the Asian financial crisis. The government provided billions of dollars of financial support to troubled banks during the late 1990s to keep them afloat. Much of the support, which came in the form of a liquidity facility from the central bank, has never been repaid. The task force will comprise of ministers, police and prosecutors. Forecasters predicted that half of the roughly 20 tropical cyclones expected to form in the Western Pacific Ocean through September this year are predicted to hit land in East Asian nations. Such storms have wrought havoc, running into damages worth billions of dollars across Asia in the past decade. City University of Hong Kong forecasted 5 storms each are expected to hit land in the regions of eastern China and Taiwan, southern China and Vietnam and the Philippines, while Japan and Korea may only experience 2. That total exceeds the region's 30-year average of 13.5 cyclones in the months from April to September. Scientists warn that global warming is increasingly making storms more ferocious, while rising air and sea surface temperatures help fuel stronger storms with the potential for faster wind speeds and heavier rain. Amounting to 5 billion ringgit in direct fiscal transfers, what impact can Permakassar Plus have? Tonight on Consider This, we ask economists about their thinking behind the latest government economic support measures. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news update on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and Astro AWANI app. I am Fahana Sheikh. We'll see you again.